I woke up this morning at 3 o'clock. I heard a chirp. And I thought, why is there a bird chirping at 3 a.m.? So I started to drift back asleep again, and then I heard another chirp. And I realized, okay, that's not a bird. That is my smoke alarm. So I got up and I went over to the smoke alarm. That means it's a low battery. But there's the smoke alarm and a carbon monoxide detector side by side. So I didn't know which one was chirping. So I stood there half asleep, staring at them for like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, nothing. So I've coined a new phrase, just like a watched pot never boils, a watched smoke alarm never chirps. So anyway, I decided I just go to the bathroom. So I walk out into the hallway and naturally then it chirps. Anyway, I came back, it still wouldn't chirp. Anyway, I went to my wife's office. I did find a 9-volt battery and I replaced the smoke alarm. I figured that's a 50-50 chance. And I got it right. And I wound up going back to bed, but boy, I couldn't get back to sleep till after 4 o'clock, I tell you. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad I got my health. I'm glad everybody else is here too. I've got a lot of things to go through today, so I'll get started.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Does everybody see that nice colorful page?
Yes.
I have this up here. We had a slight uptick in Human Good. We're up to 17 active cases now. So that was an increase of 6 cases over last Monday. And it's a good reminder for us. The whole country seemed to have been settling down. And now different parts of the country have opened up and there are new spikes happening. Just over the weekend, we had new record cases nationwide. And it's not because there's more testing, there is more testing, but it's because a higher percentage of people are testing positive again. So what has happened in a lot of places, their numbers were going down, they reopened, and now the numbers are going back up. A lot of the new cases are from family gatherings, especially now as the weather is getting cooler in a lot of places. Families are gathering, and they're gathering indoors, and you have a family member who is asymptomatic, but who has it, and they infect everybody else. So while we are opening up now, we're pleading with people to still be very, very careful. Please keep wearing your mask. Please meet outside as much as you can if your family visits. I know it's going to start getting chillier here. I'm happy to say, though, that all the snow you see outside right now is all the snow we're going to get. So at least we don't have that level of cold. But I know it does get pretty chilly. And so I don't know how much longer folks are going to want to meet outside. So we'll do our best to keep large indoor spaces available as much as we can. But please keep really mindful of wearing a mask. If you have a caregiver, they should always wear their mask inside your apartment. Every moment, they should not take that mask off. It's best if you don't take the mask off either. If you've got anyone inside your apartment, whether it's family members or others, unless you're living together, you should have a mask on. So as I say, Jerry and Sheila, you're fine. You live together. You don't need to wear a mask when you're just both there. But anybody else, if you've got any kind of visitor coming in, please, everybody should wear your masks. Dave and Cheryl too, you're good too. So no worries. But anybody else come in, including me, including any team member, the mask, please. It is, even Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC, essentially standing up to his boss, Donald Trump, said that these and social distancing reduce the risk of infection by 65%. So that's very significant. And again, if you look at our numbers across all of human good, people, and it's all been residents who've gotten COVID-19, 10%. It's a 10% mortality rate for our residents. That's more than 10 times higher than the national average. So that's why we don't want anybody getting this thing, because it really is dangerous. We don't want team members getting it either, because this is not the flu. This virus attacks any of your organs that have ACE2 receptors in their cells. I know what that word is. I don't know what that means, other than I know that the virus can grab onto that and attack it. And so your stomach, your liver, your kidneys, your brain can get impacted by this virus. So even young people who survive and recover from the virus itself could have lifelong lasting conditions. So the best protection is just don't get it to begin with. Hopefully we'll get a vaccine coming out in the next few months, and hopefully it'll be really effective. But until then, we have to please stay mindful. I still see people almost every day, whether it's a resident or even a team member, that I have to remind not only to get their mask on, but sometimes when you're talking, I'm gonna get this right side up. Sometimes when you're talking, you're like this, and then you pull it down like this so you can breathe better, you could talk better. Please don't do that. That if you've got it, and this is not to protect you as much as it is to protect others, if you happen to have it, this will spread it. When you're talking and you're breathing, that can spread the virus if you've got it. So it's best, please keep your mask on. So that's my public service announcement for the day. So next up is, let me get up to here. The state has, not for the first time, the state has really confused me. We are in budget season, and every year I start talking about the budget pretty early on, because I have a background in accounting, and I like to dig in and forecast as early as I can what I see coming down the pike for the monthly fee increase. Of course, we know we've always got the wage increases, that's primarily what we have to cover one year to the next. And some years is more, some years is not. But what I've always been able to do is meet with people more, have more give and take, explain things more. Of course, this year it's all been by Zoom. We can't meet up in the Sky Room anymore for a while. But I've always tried to come out and hone down the number closer and closer until we get to the point where we know what the numbers are actually going to be. The state has come out with two wholly different things. One is, it says we have to notify the residents of what the monthly fee increase is 2 months before the end of the year. So that means by the end of October, we have to announce the actual monthly fee increase. At the same time, it's saying I don't have to explain why until the end of November. So I'm sorry, I am going to buck the system. I'm supposed to put out what looks like is going to be the monthly fee increases already. So I'm going to buck the system by explaining numbers to you now, and I will be getting everything out in writing. It will be available. We'll have the budget, at the front desk, and for anybody who wants to get a copy of it. It's been a real wild ride. There are numbers that have been changing so much, even in just the last few months. So we have revised the budget rather dramatically even in the last month, seeing where the numbers have been. So I'm going to get started on this. So this is the history of our operating margins. These are the numbers that I pay most attention to, though, as I've mentioned, we're very far behind in entry fees, but the entry fees do not impact the monthly fee increase. It's a whole different separate bucket. So the focus here is on the operating margins. Now, back in 2013, we actually had an operating margin of minus 51,000. We actually lost money. We were 1.1 million behind the budget, but we actually lost money. Now, in 2017 and 2018, we had the elevator installation. The 41st Street lobby was closed. In 2018, we got the flu twice. We got norovirus once. We only had Alice working in sales, and our occupancies were way down. 2017 and 2018 were really bad years. Even though we didn't lose money, we still were in the black. We were just $1 million plus behind budget. Then 2019 really started coming back. The first part of the year was slow, but by the time we got to the end of the year, we were just rocking. We had a full sales team. All the renovation work was done. The 41st Street lobby was open. And it looked like 2020 was just set to be a banner year. Alice was even looking at a waiting list for residential living. We haven't had a true waiting list since I've been here. I got here in 2014. So we've never had a wait list for independent living. So that's how things were moving. It was really set to be a fantastic year. Our health center was maxed out. We had all 86 beds filled in the health center. Assisted living was lagging a little bit, and memory care was about right on budget. So all in all, our numbers were just looking incredible. And then we know norovirus hit January 9th. For some reason, certain dates just stick in my mind, and I remember January 9th was the day. And so even though we were looking so good and so strong, we had to put brakes on in terms of sales activity. We had to put the brakes on in terms of public gatherings. And we began serving meals up into the apartments for a bit. Then in February, we got over it. I'm really happy to say, and Daniel could confirm this, I don't think anybody even had to go to the hospital. So it was really kept contained. I tell you, we've just got the best clinical team that I could ever hope for, because that doesn't always happen in communities. So 2020 was just starting out great. We were just getting back to normal at the end of February and reopening events and having things happen again. And then the coronavirus hit. And as I've said before, in a sense, it was a blessing in disguise, because we were prepared for it. We had already trained for it. We didn't have as much personal protective equipment as we wanted. We didn't have as many masks as we needed, but the team jumped in, even residents jumped in and started making masks. And so we never fell short of what we really needed in terms of personal protective equipment. We got a little tight sometimes, but we never fell short. But what that has meant is that throughout 2020, we've just been in a gradual decline all year long. We haven't really been doing very many sales at all. And I'll show you in a later slide. You know, our budget for independent living, we have 176 apartments. The budget is to have 163 of them occupied. We are right now at 140. So the number has just really, really dropped. Now, we have gotten some new residents moving in, which is great. And I'm hopeful that people are starting to realize that Piedmont Gardens is a pretty safe place to be. You know, that in terms of what our experience has been, it's been pretty safe. So I'm really happy to say that. And I'm knocking on wood as I'm saying that, not that I'm superstitious. But at any rate, this is where we're at now. I'm projecting that we will have an operating margin of 2.7 million, and that we'll beat the budget by 424,000 because we had such a strong start. But this fourth quarter is going to be a rough quarter. So this is based on how the first 9 months have happened and what's originally budgeted for the last quarter. So I think this is optimistic. I don't think we'll hit this high of a number, but that's where I'm starting at. What are the expense assumptions that we're looking at for next year? We know we have wage increases from 3 to 4.2%. The 4.2 is for all of the hourly workers who are working 7.5 hours a day, and that's keeping the overtime down. But we didn't want them penalized by only giving them a 3% increase while they're working 7.5 hours rather than 8 hours a day. So we agreed, and the union went along with it, that we could give them a 4.2% increase. I'm really happy that we're able to do that. So now our minimum is $16.07. That's our lowest starting wage of any position at Piedmont Gardens. So we did not actually renegotiate a new contract this year. We just agreed to extend our existing contract to September 1 of next year. So no big ups or downs. We're just going to continue on. We will negotiate a new contract next year. Hopefully we'll be able to be in person. The fringe cost as a percentage of salary, this is always somewhat of an unknown. This also depends on negotiations with the health insurance company and with all the other insurances we deal with. And so I've gotten this number from the home office, from the Community Support Center, but this is a bit of an unknown. Our average team member wage rate is $21, and our nursing hours per patient day is 4.28. That's a really critical number that we have to maintain in skilled nursing. So there are times, if we have a call out and we need a CNA to come in or an LVN to come in, we have to maintain this number. So this is really critical. So at times we do have people working double shifts or a lot of overtime, depending on the numbers of call outs. So here's the history of monthly fee increases. I like to keep 2006 on here just because I like people to see it. Once upon a time, we had an increase of 9.5%. I haven't seen anything like that since I've been here, but I'm always astounded when I see that number. So the numbers can vary depending on what's happening with the economy, what's happening with our census and with our occupancy, what's happening with wage increases. It can be all over the map. So oftentimes we have just one number for all levels of living, and other times, depending on where we see increased expenses happening, we might increase a little more. In 2020, we saw that there were coming up that we had more expenses in the higher levels of living in the clinical areas. So we had a slightly higher increase there than we did in the residences. But this is what we did for the 2020 calendar year. Now I'm going to get into some deeper level budget material, and I really tried to simplify it as much as I could, because most of these pages had like 10 columns in them, and they were too small to read, and there were too many. They had 2018 numbers and 2019 numbers, and they have not only the 2019 budget, but then the 2019 actual, and then 2020, they had so many things. So I took out a lot of stuff. So I got this down to what I think was the most meaningful. This column is the budget for 2020. And this is how much for residential living we were looking to generate in net monthly fees and an average monthly fees. We budgeted 164 apartments occupied. If you jump over to here, this is what we've experienced through September. And if we annualize that, that's what we would expect to happen to the end of the year. So the budget would be falling short of, the annualized is falling short of the budget. So what they do is pull in, what do they think our occupancy is going to be for 2021? The target, what they originally thought, this goes back to like July and August. When we first started putting this together, we thought we would be at about 161 apartments. Last month, we revised that down to 150 apartments. But right now, we're at 140. So even 150 seems pretty optimistic, and I'm an optimist. So I'm hoping that Alice and the team can really pull this off, but this is going to be a challenge. For assisted living, we're actually doing pretty good right now. The budget for this year was 53. Right now, we have been running for the year at 48. But at this moment, and Zinnia can confirm this for me, we're at 53 or 54 right now.
We're 55.
55. We're at 55. So one thing that I've experienced over the years is when one department struggles and the occupancy seems to dip, another one kind of steps up and is able to handle it. Now, in our case, we've been low for much of the year in assisted living. And part of the reason why we're low now in residential living is we've had a number of people move from residential into assisted. So that's a natural kind of progression. So originally back in July, August, we were thinking, okay, well, maybe we'll hit 51 for assisted living. But now we're at 54, 55. We've revised that up, and we think we're going to shoot for 53 and a half for 2021. Okay. Then we've got memory care. So memory care, originally the budget for 2020 was 13. We've been running at 14 plus most of the year. At this moment in time, we're at 16. So again, it's a matter of one department sliding a bit, the other department's picking up the slack. So we've rebudgeted from 13 up to 14, and that's gonna stay there. Skilled nursing, now it starts to get a little more complicated with skilled nursing because this is not a monthly figure, these are daily figures. And we have different kinds of payers. So this begins to get a lot more complicated. These are the rates that the different payers are expected to pay. So this is private pay, then Medicare A, which is the highest payer, Medicaid, which is the lowest payer, and then HMO or insurance companies, and they're kind of mid-range. So that's how much we expect to get from the different payer types. The only kind of payer type we influence is private pay. And that's what, if residents or people who are staying in skilled nursing don't have any kind of insurance and they're paying on their own, this is what they pay. Then we have to figure out, well, how many of each of these types of payers do we expect to have? So the total available beds is 86. So we expected, well, for 2020, we expected 12 private pay, but we've experienced 8. So we've brought that expectation down to 10. Non-contract, these are from outside. They pay more than contracted residents. We're expecting them at 13. Medicare is also at 13. We've been a little below that this year. Medicaid is our highest group, and they're at 26. And then the health insurances, we've got at 9. So our expected daily census, when you're talking about skilled nursing, it's the census as opposed to occupancy. We've brought it down from 74 this year to 72.9. But even there, that's pretty optimistic compared to 66. Now, part of why we think the census will go up, again, is optimism. If we do get a vaccine, or if our therapeutics improve, and the therapeutics do seem to be improving all across the board, fewer people are dying right now from COVID-19. It seemed like early on, it was a primarily thought to be a respiratory disease, and they were getting people on ventilators pretty quick, and it seemed like ventilators might almost have been the kiss of death for people. So I don't think they're pushing to get people onto ventilators quite so fast these days. And we've got remdesivir, and we've got different medications that are being tried. We've learned a lot. You know, medicine has learned a lot throughout this year, and they're treating things better. One of the reasons, and the reason why I'm going into this explanation, one of the reasons our numbers in skilled nursing are down is that the numbers of elective surgeries has gone down. Elective surgeries are, joint replacements. Our skilled nursing does a lot with therapy for joint replacement and for other types of elective surgery. Well, the hospitals aren't doing those now. So our numbers have depressed. Even so, because of the reputation of our clinical team, Piedmont Gardens is pulling in a lot of discharges from different hospitals because the clinical team is that good and they're that recognized. So I'll never slow down bragging about this team and the skills that they bring to the table. So we're expecting our census in skilled nursing to be just shy of 73. So make sure I get it. Looks like we're on this one. So now we've got the operating margin summary for next year. This is what is planned for next year. The target that we were originally given, now this is going to seem so counterintuitive, and you would be right. So the original planned target for us was dropped from 2020. Our original planned target was 2.2 million. I mean, that was for 2020. So the original target, because of things heading south, was a little over 2 million. Right now, if we were to get back to our normal monthly budget figures for the last quarter, we would end up at 2.8 million. Now we know that's not going to happen. But we have been chosen as one of the 3 communities that Human Good thinks can solidly recover in 2021. They look at our bones. And that's why they've invested a bit of money here when a lot of communities aren't getting anything. So we fixed our railings and we're painting Oakmont. It's not a blockbuster of a fix, but it's just to improve things. And in 2021, we will be redoing all of the lounges in Crestmont to a degree. at the end of 2021 or beginning of 2022, I have a feeling we're going to be doing a lot of work on Crestmont, but that'll be related to the whole seismic question. But because Human Good is hoping that we will be one of the leaders in 2021, they have upped the expectation for the operating margin, and it's been upped to 2.4 million. So we'll see if we can make that happen. I will say that Human Good as a whole, all of the Community Support Center, the home office, they do look at our team. They say, this is from them, we have the strongest team. And like I say, I know that's a fact. And so they're counting on us to really pull through in 2021. So this one's hard to read. I threw this in here because there's a concern about how many team members do we have. We have had 238 this year. We are looking to increase by 7 or so increase in team members for next year. So we're trying hard to get a hairstylist. It's harder than you would think to get one of these people. So we've been interviewing a couple of people. There's one person I'm really hopeful. We have a team member who, from her home country, she had a haircutting certification, but that doesn't count here. And so we're seeing if we couldn't get a special waiver due to COVID-19 so that she could open up the hair salon. I would love that if we could make that happen. So, but we haven't gotten permission on that yet. We do have a couple other leads. You know, when residents go out and they get their hair cut and they talk to their barber or their hairstylist and they say, we're looking for somebody, you know, occasionally they'll say, well, I wouldn't mind working at Piedmont Gardens. So we're reaching out to a couple of people like that. It's a small gesture on my part, but I won't cut my hair until we've got somebody. Once again, you know, we had Lucy come back for a little bit, so my wife cut my hair real quick, but then Lucy retired. So I haven't cut my hair since, and like I say, it's a small gesture, but I feel I have a lot of empathy for folks wanting to get their hair cut, wanting to get it styled, wanting to get it colored, anything. So we're trying to get somebody in here. It's just, for some reason, it's more challenging than you would think. But we are working on that. So we are planning on getting about 7 more people hired for next year. So this is the last slide before the final slide. This is the penultimate slide. And this comes from my looking forward. So here are our annualized cost of wages for the year 2020, for this year. If we have a 3% increase in wages, that would increase next year's wage expense by $382,000. The benefits for 2020, 3.1 million. I'm expecting about a 5% increase in those numbers. So that'd be another 157,000. The non-wage expenses, everything else that we spend money on, and this doesn't include the extra that we've spent on COVID-19, but looking at a 3% increase, and this is a real variable, a little less than 300,000. If you add up these bold figures, I'm expecting an increase of around a little above $800,000 in expenses for next year that we would have to cover. So like I said, I'm coming at this from a whole different angle than what the home office is coming from. They're creating their whole company-wide reality, and I'm looking at just us and what we might expect realistically. Here I've got the different levels of living, and if I annualize our revenue, in residential living, I'm annualizing $8.9 million. In assisted living, 3.9. memory 1.4, and in the health center, this is private pay only of 4 million. So I'm expecting the revenue for this year to end up in these categories a bit over 18, about 18.5 million. A 3% increase in monthly fees would result in 554,000 additional revenue. That doesn't cover the 833. A 4% increase gets us to 738. It still doesn't cover 833. A 5% increase blows right by 833. So my expectation has been that we would see an increase somewhere between 4 and 5%. So I just trying to be realistic for Piedmont Gardens. Well, here is what we're looking at for 2021. The expectation is that, and this is so far in conjunction talking with the Home Office, that we would be looking at a 4.25% increase in all of the levels of living. This isn't 100% carved in stone yet, but I think that it's going to end up pretty close to this. That's a little better than I was projecting. If I go back to the last slide, I was projecting more like a 4.5% increase just by looking at these numbers. So I like to get it to 4%. That's always my goal every year. And I don't see how I was going to do it, but I'm grateful that we've got it down to 4.25. Now, one thing we have to, so we also don't do this in a vacuum. We look at what's out there in the market, how much are apartments in retirement communities like ours costing. You know, we have to stay competitive. We like to stay a little bit below just because that helps people want to move in here. But this is what it's looking like for 2021 at this point. And I will be getting the final official letters out by the end of this week. But I wasn't supposed to tell you any of this until next month. I don't see how I could do that. So anyway, hopefully I won't get my hand slapped, because I think you deserve to know whatever the rate increase is before you're told what the rate increase is. I hope that makes sense. And if the state comes after me, I hope you all defend me. So any questions about any of this? Let's see, I don't see any on that screen.
I have a question.
Oh, good. Bonnie.
Who is going to cut my toenails?
Okay, that wasn't expected. We do have the podiatrist still coming in. So if you call wellness, Zinnia, do they call?
Kevin, Bonnie, I'll talk to the nurses here. We'll schedule you one for
Okay.
the podiatrist, okay?
Great, okay. Thank you.
I love it. That was a little box of chocolates for me. You know, whenever we can solve an issue, I used to say that's my bread and butter, but my wife corrected me because she said, no. Your bread and butter is how you earn your money. You get a little win like this. That's not how you make your bread and butter. That's where you get your box of chocolates. So that's my little box of chocolates. Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody got anything else?
Kevin, this is Matt,
Hey, Matt.
and I'm wondering how do our increase figures compare with what Human Good is figuring average for the whole outfit?
We are
in other words-
we are a little bit on the low side. Oh boy, I had. I'm going to look off screen for a little bit here because I had some of those numbers. Let me just see if I can pull that up. Okay. Let's see if I can make this work. Are you seeing this big table of a lot of numbers?
Yes.
Okay, we are the third line here. This is the draft budget, 4.25. Looks like a lot of them are 4.25. if not all of them.
Mhm.
But then on the right are the increases and decreases. So actually, no, 4.25 is as high as anybody got. Some are less, depending on their situation. We came down by 0.05% in assisted, in memory, and skilled, and we went up 0.35% in residential. A lot of communities, they're coming down because they're, as much as we're hurting, there are other communities that are hurting a lot more. And that's why they're looking for us to be one of the winners for this year. The average of the West Coast, and we're included in that, 4.25 in independent, 4.17, 4.16, and 4.20. So this is next to carved in stone, but it's not, they haven't put down the chisel yet.
Kevin,
Yes.
it's Doris.
Hi, Doris.
Hi. Have they found that people in skilled nursing need more care because of the coronavirus than during normal times? And does that require more money to operate with more nursing, more therapeutics?
We haven't had anyone with COVID-19 in skilled nursing. Having said that, we are much more careful with the personal protective equipment and with the disinfecting. So we are spending more in terms of prevention. And we do have 2 infection, what are they called, preventionists? Is that what they're called, Zinnia or Daniel? I think that's what they're called, infection preventionists.
Yeah.
So we're
3.
required to have 1 and we have 2. We always go the extra mile here. So anyway, but we haven't actually had any cases, Doris, so I'm really grateful to say that. A lot of communities have had cases and they have to quarantine them in their own wing. Daniel and the team prepared one of our wings in case we ever got a case, but that hasn't happened as of yet. And we really want to keep it that way. So bottom line, yes, we are spending a bit more, but not as much as if we actually had a case. Is that fair to say, Daniel?
Yes. We're spending more, but the overall staffing is about the same.
Okay. One last thing I was going to share, if I can find it. Just in terms of going over today's memo, they are continuing the painting of Oakmont. It's much quieter than the grinding, I'm happy to say. And don't worry, but I was going to say, don't worry, we'll make sure everybody's doors open properly, but let us know right away if there's any issues with your railing or with the balcony or your door. We want to make sure before we sign off on the overall job, we want to make sure everybody's happy. So you're our best eyes and ears. So if you've got any questions about, if your door doesn't open quite right, or if they missed a spot, let us know, because we want to make sure that everybody's happy before they leave.
But don't go out to the balconies yet. They're painting right now and things are
Don't-
taped up.
Don't go out there. Don't do it.
We can't. The doors are shut.
Good. And you can tell, Don, that Doris has been trying to open hers. So anyway, there's that. We are allowed to have more visitors than before. It's not limited to essential visitors only. We're really nervous about this. I'm going to be frank here. Because of what's happening around the country with increased get-togethers among families, I'm nervous. But if you've got somebody that wants to come and visit, if you're in independent living, please call Rena. If you're in assisted living, please call Zinnia. And if you're in memory care, please call Laura, or if your family's in memory care. And they'll set up the visit. As much as possible, we really would like people to visit outside, but I know that as the temperature cools down even more, that's not going to happen. So, we do have the Friendship Room, we do have the larger public spaces in Oakmont, and then there are the apartments. And again, all I can do is plead with everybody to keep your mask on. This is going to become, for us, the most nervous time. I don't want to say dangerous, because I don't want to overstate it, but anybody coming from outside, as much as they love you and want to see you, we don't know if they've got it. My son visited us yesterday, and he won't come within 10 feet of the house. We have a deck outside. He keeps his mask on the whole time, but he won't let us get within 10 feet of him, because I'm definitely an at-risk person. My wife is not, well, she would be officially at risk next year in terms of an age limit. But he is very concerned. He does not want, if he lives in an apartment building, he doesn't know who's got it. He doesn't know if he opens a door, if he's just infected himself. He's a little bit of a germaphobe. So he does disinfect a lot and all that, but he really, really doesn't want to infect me or my wife. So he stays way back. And I really want to encourage that. When you have visitors, please make sure they're wearing a mask, and please keep a social distance. Gloria?
Yeah, Kevin, I'm wondering why opening it to outsider came before opening it to the dining possibility.
Well, dining as an indoor with a lot of people indoors definitely increases the risk much more.
Well, I mean, it would have to be modified, and people can't dine every night and so on. But I know I have a friend in a facility on the East Coast, and they opened their dining about 2 months ago, but no outside visitors.
We have to follow, and Daniel can throw in on this, we have to follow the state and county law in terms of what we're able to do. Daniel did, from personal relationship with the nurse at the county Department of Health, he got us permission to open our hair salon and our gym to one person at a time, because the county as a whole at that time had not opened that up. At this point in time, the county has said we can have indoor dining up to 25% capacity for restaurants, but not senior living. We are not included in that. So the East Coast, it goes by state law and by county regulation, and that's what we've got to follow. We have a plan in place. When the time comes, we will be removing a fair number of our dining tables and allowing, as a for instance, what they allow now in Las Vegas, Las Ventanas, they open their dining. They're allowed 25% capacity, and couples who live together can eat at the same table. Otherwise, it's one person per table, and everybody stays separate. But I don't know if you saw on the chart that I was showing, now there are 3 people infected at Las Ventanas. So it just can happen that fast. I think it's 2 team members and 1 resident. So I expect when we open up here, and I'm not sure how soon we'll be opening up, but it will only be with the permission of the county and the state. Zinnia, did you want to add on that?
Just have an update on our gym.
Yeah.
So as the state, just mentioned that it's 25% capacity. So we are going to start admitting 2 residents in our 2 separate households to be able to use our gym. So if you need to schedule, please call Kathleen and we will have 2 residents per session, as long as you're social distancing yourself, and Kathleen will be monitoring that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Zinnia. That's great. I mean, that we've just doubled the capacity of our gym. Way to go, Zinnia.
Jerry Brody had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Kevin. My question is about the outside sitting area, the area by the parking lot. Do we need to reserve that as well? And if so, with whom?
Don, are you still on? Don't see Don anymore.
Is this outside of Piedmont Gardens? We
No,
don't need, no need.
Well,
to
it's the
reserve.
area. It's the area between the building and the parking lot.
But no one comes in.
Right, so that's pretty much first come, first serve basis outside of Piedmont.
So no arm wrestling to see who gets it, okay? If there's somebody out there, leave them be. Okay, and I was just looking at I forgot, I have the numbers up here on the screen. Yeah, Las Ventanas now has 2 team members and 1 resident that have gotten infected. But they didn't have any cases for a long time. So, and hopefully they'll keep a lid on this. I mean, all of the communities that have gotten a case, because they're testing a lot, they jump on it really quick. We're testing a quarter of our team members every week. So every month, we're testing all of our team members. That's outside of skilled nursing. In skilled nursing, we're testing the team members more often than that, I believe. So it's all of these cases are getting caught because of the testing. For the most part, people aren't getting sick and then getting tested. For the most part, we're staying ahead of the cycle of people getting ill. And as we know from our experience here, we had 1 resident once test positive. We've had, I think, 6 or 7 team members test positive. Out of all those cases, only 1 team member actually exhibited symptoms. So we're staying very much ahead of the game on all this.
Kevin, on the,
Yes.
it's Doris,
Yes.
the testing mechanism that you use, how long does it take to get the results of the test? What's the turnaround?
Doris, it usually take 3 days. All our specimens are shipped every day, Monday through Saturday, through via FedEx Express, and it goes to Washington, D.C., Virginia. So that's where they get tested. So counting the day that we mail it, it's usually 3 days.
And somebody with an area code of 784 has their hand up, but I don't know who that is.
It may be me, Austin
Yes.
Frank.
Hi, Austin.
Hi, Kevin. I have a suggestion apropos of these visiting instructions. The suggestion is concerning the notification we got in the middle of this past week on visitation guidelines. Now, that's wonderful. We want and need that. There are 2 problems with it. One, it doesn't say where it comes from, so we don't know who to interact with if we want to interact with about an item. And the second is that the print is so small that I'll bet there's less than half of your 90-year-olds that can read it. I certainly can, if I have about an hour, I could get through this. but it's not useful to me. It doesn't come right out where you can handle it directly. So we need to watch the size of print of communication. Your memos, which we enjoy, are at about the lower limit for a person like myself. And so it works, but should not go smaller. So with this last week's announcement, interestingly, the back side of the page was completely blank. So it would have been simple to list who it came from and make the print larger and put half on the front and half on the back. Then I think you'll find a lot easier access for quite a number of people.
Yeah, I follow the CREST guideline of a minimum of a 14-point font. Sometimes if I really want people to get the message, I'll use a 16-point. But I do have on today's memo who to contact for your visitors. And so an independent and an assisted and a memory care, the numbers are there. And I have some more. Thank you, Austin. I'll and that came from Daniel and Zinnia, I think, mostly Daniel. But the bottom line is your visitors no longer have to be essential, but we still want you to make an appointment. We don't want people just coming in the door. You know, we want to make sure that we keep a lid on things. Like I say, we really nervous about this this time period, especially as the holidays approach and family members reasonably want to get together again. It's been such a hard year, but we don't want people to start getting sick either.
Evan, I'll relay the message to Daniel. I don't see him on the Zoom now.
Yeah, I think he had to drop off.
And we'll update it, and we'll send a bigger font. We'll send
Great.
a memo with a bigger font.
Thank you, Zinnia. Oh, thanks, Austin.
Kevin, can you stop share? Because then we can see everybody.
I will in a moment. There was some more I wanted to mention about the memo. I wanted to remind everybody about team member appreciation. There's still time to get a donation in. Voting, you can check to see if you're registered. I did get permission last week. I can collect and drop off ballots on behalf of residents. There's a process to go through. You have to give me permission in writing on the ballot. I have to sign it, and I'm not allowed to stamp it. I have to actually sign it. And so I can do it. I'm planning on dropping off the ballots on Friday. So if you call me ahead of time, let me know you would like me to take your ballot in and drop it off, I can do that. You can, on the other hand, you can mail in your ballot. There's still plenty of time to get it in. And it's probably better to just mail it. But anybody who doesn't trust the mail and you would like me to drop it off, let me know before Friday. I'll come and collect it and drop it off for you. Hiring, I mentioned in here, we're interviewing for that. And now I think I can stop sharing. Okay, now we're back. And that covers everything I had on my plate.
Can I make an announcement? This is Vanjie, Kevin.
Absolutely, Vanjie.
Yes, okay. I think we're going to have chocolates, a box of chocolates for our residents at our Hootenanny, because you're going to do the opening.
Oh, okay.
Kevin's going to do the opening. And we'll sing a beautiful song.
Thank you, Vanjie.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
How many people actually live here? I mean, how many? Yeah, how many?
We've got about 165 folks right now in Independent. We've got 55 in assisted. We've got 16 in memory. So carry the 1, that's 7, 8. So we've got 230 plus however many we have in skilled nursing one day to the next. And right now we have 65, I think. So just shy, around 300 residents and around 240 team members.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin, it's Marion.
Hi, Marion.
I have a question. In terms of hiring, do you have anybody on tap that you might be ready to hire for activity in assisted living?
Are you applying, Marion?
No.
No, okay, just
Just
wanted
asking.
to find out. Yeah, we have 2 people we're interviewing, but we're being really picky. You know, we don't want just a person. We want somebody who is really going to be a whole blend of things that is hard to find. You know, that is energetic, giving, compassionate, you know, got a good head on their shoulders. You know, we want somebody, you know, I think I mentioned before, we had one person apply whose credentials were, he's a Lyft driver. So we really want to get the right person, and we want longevity. We've got one person applying who they just got their master's degree. You know, realistically, that person's just not going to stay as an activities assistant all that long. That person has much bigger vision for themselves. So we're looking for somebody who is relatively a bit more entry level, because we've got Amy, who is a little more trained and doing a great job. So we're looking for somebody who is ready to come in as maybe just not exactly entry level, but maybe one step above entry level. But we really want the right person. Realistically, we want them to be able to speak English. We get a lot of people who don't speak English, and this is a position that's going to interact more than most positions with residents. So we want to make sure that they speak English pretty well. By the way, yeah, Don had to jump off. We had the tents up, you know, the covers up. We took them down last night because of the high wind. Now that I think the wind is calming down, we'll put those back up again. So Don wanted to make sure everybody got that word.
Kevin?
Yes, Doris. Yes, I know it's Doris.
What's happened to Liz Chamish? Is she planning to come back, or what's her situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I talked to Liz last about a month ago, and she's just not quite her term, but the way she put it, it's like she's just on hold. She's waiting to see. She's not committing to come back. She's not saying she won't come back. So I have a feeling once there is either a vaccine or an effective enough therapeutic, that's when she'll actually make her decision. She's still on our rolls. So that the door is still open. And we haven't touched her office. She's still there.
Kevin, can I put something out there?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just, as you were talking about the budget, I was reminded of John Hatzel. John Hatzel brought in on a regular basis, brought new folks in from his church. And I thought it was such a good way of getting people in. It's like you can't see your friend, so invite them to come live here. You get a referral bonus, we get the residents, you have your friends here, your friends have a good place to stay. It's a quadruple win all around, I think. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
We're not going to church, that's the problem.
A lot of people go to church online, so.
Thank you, Elizabeth. When we have an opening in sales, I'll let you know. Well, everybody, thank you very, very much. I again, just want to express my appreciation for all of you and for all of our team members. I think we just have a remarkable community of residents, and I just can't imagine a better place to be at this time. So thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.